Well, welcome everybody. Yeah, thank you, Steve. We'll take that hand off.
Yes.
Welcome to the post show in December.
December 1st.
Woo! Can you believe it? December 1st. Where this year has flown by.
It really has.
Hasn't it though? I mean, so quick. And we were welcomed into the month of December with a little Thanksgiving.
Weren't we ever? Yeah.
I had no idea it was going to snow that much on Thanksgiving Day.
No, I was looking at the, forecast and I was like, oh, sure, we'll get it. And then sure enough, I was like, they're right this time. Yeah.
Man, so like 1 in 100 actually happened, right? They were actually right. I thought we would get like 1 to 3 inches, but there was 5 or 6 inches on the table on my backyard.
Yeah.
Easily.
Same here. Yeah.
So, yeah. And of course, you know what that led to? Thanksgiving Day led to my grandkids coming over, which led to about 3 to 4 hours of playing out in the snow.
Yep.
And we had a blast, but at 7 o'clock, I went to bed. I said, Sandy, I'm out.
Probably just crashed. Yeah.
I'm out. Yeah, it was like, man, I was done. So good day. How was your guys' Thanksgiving?
It was great. The Lions won
They did.
in a crazy fashion. Yeah. It was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, I am thankful for this. But
yeah, because they were like first half dominating and then
second half just came out very flat.
Yeah.
And it was just a very strange thing.
Now, did the University of Michigan play it all over the weekend? I don't recall.
Yeah, they played yesterday.
Did they play a game?
They beat Ohio State.
I actually knew that.
I know you did. I will take Perry's not here, so somebody has to toot Michigan's horn for playing better than anybody thought they would have.
I watched most of the game and it was shocking that they won.
I was shocked too. I was ready to just all day be like, well, it's going to be one of those days.
Yep.
And it wasn't. It was very interesting.
But kudos to Michigan. I'm happy they won. I'm actually glad about that. But yeah, it was one of those things. Austin, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was really good. Got to hang out with a lot of my family. Cool. Thursday was parents, siblings, got to hang out at the house. And then my aunt and my cousin drove down. And then on my dad's side, we all had there was like 18 people that were eating at the house. It was a lot of people.
Whoa,
it was
that's
a lot
a
of
big
fun.
one. Yeah.
And one guy threw off the height curve by about 2 feet.
Yeah, yes. Most of us Brubaker's, we're not very tall people. So when there's somebody that is even just a little bit tall, that throws everything off. And then you throw in my cousin there who's like 6'4".
Yeah, right.
Oh, my, seriously?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's shocking that we are related to each other, but we are.
That's hilarious. Layla, how about you?
It was also very good. We had Thanksgiving at my family's on Thanksgiving Day.
Cool.
And then we went to Tony's family on Black Friday.
Right. All right. And have you decorated your house for Christmas yet?
We did put a tree up.
Whoa, don't be so excited about it.
I know. I have like really I don't know. I find that there's so much work in putting up holiday decor because you have to put it up.
Take it down.
I don't know, and then just extra things to clean. So I just have the hardest time.
Layla, you're revealing that you're just getting older.
You're also speaking
it
my
gets
language.
harder.
Because I'm like, that's so much more I have to do.
Yeah, and then we store our decorations in the barn. This year there were mouse turds all over them, so I'm like, nope.
Oh, we did that. We brought our Christmas tree up, and there were mice in the box.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay. So it was like, whoa, I heard my wife shriek.
Yeah.
She was all about Christmas decorations. I have no idea why, but she was like, got the tree up, put the lights on. I usually put the lights on. She did it all. And when I woke up Thanksgiving Day and I saw all the snow, I felt this relief, like, I'm not going to be able to put up outside Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
Yes. I actually felt relief about it. Crazy. But didn't the church look amazing this morning?
Oh, my gosh.
It really does.
So
yeah.
Wow.
Christmas threw up in here in the best way possible.
In the best way possible. I love it. We have Lindsay Seeley does our designing and everything for Christmas.
And then her and Cody worked tirelessly to get it done.
They did. Her and Cody were here I think almost every night this last week.
I think so. Yeah.
Putting up. So, man, they did a magical job, and it felt like Christmas when we walked in this morning. Speaking of feeling like Christmas is a time of peace. Do you like that segue?
Nice transition.
Yeah,
Dave.
thank you. Because we talked about peace this morning. When you think of, the famous peace on earth, goodwill toward men is the way we always heard it growing up, right? Peace on earth. How do you think most people actually experience peace, or do they? When you look around our world, what does it look like to you?
Doesn't look like a very peaceful place, does it?
Not for the most part.
Not for the most part. But
Yeah.
when you see certain families like your guys, pictures of families hanging out together, everybody, and the best part is I like when people aren't posing for the picture. It's just you capture a moment in time.
A moment.
You can just see the kind of peace that's there, and it's a different. It just makes you feel happy when you see it. Makes you feel relieved that is out there, and it reminds you, we all have it. It's just we're not always taking pictures of it, and you have to, make sure you do manifest peace. You have to work at it, just like you have to work at anything.
Yep. Indeed. I found my heart really saddened when I heard numerous reports from even psychologists who were going, this Thanksgiving, this holiday season, if you've got people in your family that voted for somebody other than what you did, don't feel you have to be together with them for the holidays. Get some space and I thought, how tragic that we can't have peace with our families during Thanksgiving and Christmas season at all times. But there's such an absence of peace in our world. But there's pockets of peace, aren't there, Andy? Like you just said, those little pockets of peace that we can have. What do you think it is that makes for those pockets of peace that can be so unlike the larger cultural phenomenon that we witness? What makes for that?
I feel like there's key people that can drive those pocket moments is what I'll call it. Right?
Peace pockets. That's what I'll call
yes.
them.
But I love that term, Layla, because it's like the overall environment of our world, our culture, isn't very peaceful. But then inside of that, there's like this pocket, this bubble, this space where all of a sudden it exists.
Yeah.
And discovering what creates that is like really important.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like there's people or somebody that is within that pocket driving some type of goodness or,
So it really
peace.
starts from within people.
I think so.
Yeah. And what is it about the inner workings of a person that makes them someone that can generate more of an atmosphere of peace in a relationship, in a home, in a friendship circle? What are the characteristics of a person that can generate that?
I think having a heart of God is the primary characteristic.
When you're at church, Jesus is always the right answer.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good sir. No, but really, right?
I'm with her. When you have somebody that has a Christ-centered focus, it's easier to put peace out in the world because, like you said, much like your message talked about, people that actually put forth your action steps and accept God's grace, but God's help, and know that you can lean on Him. I've found more people that are like that are more apt to throw peace out in the world, or they're just a calming presence because they're not as worked up about things. And peace is able to then flow out of that more easy because you're not always like this around people, or you're like not worried about things. So
that's a great way to say that. This calming presence, another way to just kind of a rest, a peace that exists. Absolutely. Austin, what do you think about the kind of person that can kind of put peace out there?
I think it comes from people. It also comes from environments where you feel comfortable in. When you talk about a place and a piece, it talks about familiarity. So oftentimes this comes from people that you know, like your family. You feel a lot of times you feel comfortable with a certain key people within your family. There's a lot of the familiarity. There's a lot of shared history that you have with them, similar to a lot of other places. I know there's certain places that I go to that I feel ultra comfortable in, and there's kind of this calming peace and presence that is part of being in that environment, being with certain people in certain situations. And I think it is amazing to have that on here, but also recognize that, just relating this back to God a little bit, that He is with us always in this, and there is an everlasting peace that can come through him regardless of what is going on, regardless of when things get tough with some of the things that you might be relying on. If there's some not peace there with your family, or there's different situations that pop up, there's one person that you can rely on with that.
Boy, for sure. I love how you put that. There's some environments, meaning some networks of relational connections where you just feel safe. And you if you don't feel safe, you can't have peace, right? You're always on your guard. There's always a tension. But there are some people that you can you can just drop your guard and be real around. And that helps to create that peace and rest, that calmness that's there. That is such a great insight. And that starts by having that I can drop my guard around God because we're okay with each other and he accepts me the way that I am. So that makes me curious. When did each of you start your relationship with God, where he became that safe person because you made peace with God through what Jesus had done for you? When did that journey start for you?
I think my journey started, when I was a kid. I mean, not like super young, right? Because even though I was in church my whole life, I don't think I really understood and connected at that age. But I feel like middle school, I really started to have moments. I think of like different youth group events and whatnot where I felt those peace pockets, right?
Yeah.
That then, you just wanted more of. But then in high school for me is where it took a deeper dive because that's where, some tragic events happened.
Yeah.
And I didn't have peace and I needed it so badly. And it was like one of the things that you mentioned in, when bad things happen to good people, God gives them peace as they trust his promises. I had a lot of those moments in high school, especially towards like my junior year.
So let's dive into that a little bit more.
more.
Because you experienced one of the things that we tried to explain, all right? That even in the midst of trouble, which are like soul-crushing circumstances, right? They can just like suck the life right out of you.
Yeah.
There were times you experienced that, but in that, you experienced peace in your heart.
Yep.
How were you able to experience that peace in those kinds of moments, Layla?
Obviously I'm a firm believer that my faith in God pulled me through it, but the people, again, that I surrounded myself with, my friends, my family, youth pastors, coaches, teams, they helped me carry on because what I am talking about.
And how did they help you carry on, Layla? What did they do?
They were just there for me.
Okay, so and
Their
that's
presence,
huge. It's
yeah.
like I will be with you in this is huge. It always starts there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what kinds of things would they say or not say that helped?
Just, that I can get through this, which it was my sister's suicide, which is, I don't know. It's hard to think that there are things much darker than that.
For sure.
And that's
For sure.
something to wrestle with too when you're thinking about like relying on my faith, because it's something, right, where at first I was like, this, I didn't know what to feel. And it's a very dark thing to go through. But yeah, just a lot of people just keeping my spirits lifted up and helping me understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, that is a process where I like to call it's like a hamster wheel where you can just go in circles, right? Because it wasn't supposed to happen kind of thing, but maybe it was.
And
very
there's
deep
no
and
like
confusing.
simple, nice answer that go, it makes sense now, because it never will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just knowing too, there was even a class that I went through where this teacher made me essentially write about it. But I did so much research and I found a lot of educational material to help me understand how I could be a change agent too for, even because it has a trickling effect on even the people, the school that I was in and the other people there, right? Yeah. How I can help them get rid of the toxic thoughts that one can have, right?
Wow.
There's a thing called like copycat.
So there even
suicide.
came a point in time in which you became concerned about other people
Absolutely.
and wanted to
Yeah.
help them get through things similar to what you were going through.
Yeah.
That were a part of the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. But I mean, the key thing is like, you matter, people matter, everybody matters, your life matters, God loves you. Right? Like, there's no reason to let yourself get to that point where you want to take your life. Like, it's so permanent. So that's the people, all the people around me helped me realize,
Yeah,
the good
that's
things
amazing.
out of something so
It goes
bad.
back to what Austin was saying, that there are some groups of people, pockets of peace, like Andy was talking about, where it's like, I can drop my guard and be real around, and by virtue of their presence and involvement in my life, they help me to experience moments of relief, peace, in the midst of incredible difficulty. So I'm wondering, for both Andy and Austin, have there been times in your life where you've experienced that dynamic of trouble? I mean, hard, difficult times, and yet finding a measure of peace even in the midst of the trouble?
Yeah. For me, growing up, I obviously grew up in the church quite a bit, and there is, especially times growing up, there's situations. I moved a little bit throughout different
You
times.
did.
I remember moving down to this area right here from a place where was home. That's where family was over on the other side of the state. And I remember there being moving down here and just entering 8th grade, so I don't really know what to expect. Kind of uprooted from a lot of different friendships that I had. It was a unique time, and it was I don't know exactly where I fit in with this, but there was still a trusting aspect in there. And you were talking a little bit earlier about, and I was thinking through different ways where God has kind of molded us and helped invent and put some of his peace upon us. I think for me, it's part of my story has to do with other people seeing potential and then being able to help get me to certain places and put me in certain situations that helped me grow.
Okay.
And that I can point to a couple of different examples. When I was in 8th grade and when I was entering into 9th grade, mission trips, going out overseas to Thailand to see the global mission of God. And then obviously being put on stage with no real musical ability or talent, but being...
Well, you developed some, Austin. I'll give you that.
But at that time, being entrusted with that when I was just starting with high school, and it was people putting and believing in me doing that, but it also, like you mentioned in the sermon, took an act of obedience and a trustingness of God and taking those steps and going through and saying, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing or how this is going to help me, but going ahead and doing it anyways, going ahead and taking those
that's
obedient
so
steps
good.
and walking in God. And it actually reminds me of one of my I got to double check to make sure I got enough time. I got about a minute here. It reminds me of one of my favorite verses throughout the entire Bible. It's actually a Deuteronomy, found in Deuteronomy 30, but I like the retelling of it in Nehemiah 1. I'll go ahead and read it right now. It says, "But if you return to me and obey my commands and live by them, then even if you are exiled to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back to a place I have chosen for my name to be honored." And I love that depiction, that picture that it presents right there, that it doesn't matter how far that you go. It doesn't matter where that you end up. Act in those steps of obedience with God. Put your trust in him, and there's going to be a peace that gets presented right there. I thought that verse kind of, just with the overall message, just fit in so beautifully.
That is so beautiful,
is good.
for sure. For sure. And the idea that, you know what, having peace with God, now walking in his ways, without those things, when the real trouble hits, experiencing peace is going to be really difficult, if not impossible.
Yes.
And you had that going. You had that obedience that positioned you to have that peace of God when trials come. That's an excellent story. And you can fly.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go play these songs again.
More Christmas music, absolutely. What about you, Andy?
Oh, I just love following Layla and then Austin here because I don't have a Bible verse set up. Which also, why didn't you use that verse in the message today?
I should have.
you
I
need
may
to-
use it in the third service. You never know.
I always thought my story is incredibly boring because I've been in the church pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
Sure, there's moments where you kind of, college, flutter away, but flutter back, marriage with kids. But I think that there's a part of me that has always like, I have no good story. But there's also a story of just, gritting your teeth and just keep going.
Keep going.
doing.
Oh,
Because not a
so-
lot of people have that. And I'm very, very blessed in that because my dad made sure we went to church and went to, school. Instead, from kindergarten through 8th grade. And while freshman year for me, it was always in an actual Christian school. So my dad wanted to make sure we had a good foundation. So when we went to high school or college, we had that faith base.
Right,
So,
right.
but I will say, to answer your initial question, when you really dove into God's, when you kind of gave it all to Him and found that peace, it was more when I had kids. Because then I was like, okay, I want to create the kind of family that I remember having.
Yeah.
And I will say, when you have a family that is in church, focused on church, doing other things with other church families, that peace finds its way pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very blessed that I grew up not knowing a whole lot of strife, difficulty, stuff like that.
Yeah. What a blessing.
Yes, incredibly blessed. So I say when I had kids, I made my wife and I were kind of just going to different churches going, this isn't quite for us, isn't quite for us. And I was like, all right, now I got to find one that's for them, not
For them.
me. And thankfully, connections hit. It just, hit. I've told this story many times. The first service I was here, you mentioned Star Wars. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And then the next week, you mentioned Marvel Comics. And I was like, okay, I get it. But, so it's more of the peace that comes from knowing Christ your whole life. But then finally, after many years, finally giving it over to Him, that's when the true peace happens. Because then you're like, okay, now I know, now I've got peace. Not just when I'm around other people, I have peace when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And that's hard because when you're left to your own devices, I don't know about you,
Not there.
I tend to not always think the best stuff. I tend to wallow in negativity or things I didn't do right, things I missed, things I could do better, this or that. So having God there, and I could just be like, it doesn't matter. I'm who I'm supposed to be right now because of Him.
Yeah,
So,
that's so good. And the whole idea that if we put ourselves in environments that are more peaceful, we can experience peace. But then when we take that step and internally commit it to Christ alone, then that peace grows and we become more of the people that spread that environment as opposed to someone that needs to be in that environment. Is powerful things. Anything, as we kind of wrap it up today, anything from the message today, which always feels awkward to me because I gave the message, but anything in the message today that in particular kind of just like struck you or stimulated your thought or challenged you or maybe encouraged you in some way that you'd like to just share with everybody before we go?
I'll jump real quick because I know Layla's got notes, and I don't take notes. I'm not a note taker, never have been, never will be. But I will say the action step is not a difficult one, in theory.
Yeah.
And I think and unfortunately, even when you've given all of your worry to God and you have that peace, guess what? It's really easy to fall out of it. So
Sure is.
I was thankful
Sure
that
is.
your action step was it's not a hard one, but it's one that you have to be focused on and have to make a conscious effort over and over again to do.
To keep
so that
going.
helps me even because when times are good, guess what? It's really easy to just relax and let things happen. But as soon as something bad happens, then you start to worry. But if you continually focus and give everything to God and have His peace flowing through you all the time, it just makes that easier.
Yeah.
So that stood out to me and helped
That's
me because
good.
I was like, I need that sometimes because
Cool.
it's really easy
Cool.
to just
Layla?
not.
I liked one of the last verses I think that you shared, 2 Corinthians, where it was basically saying like what is seen is temporary and what is unseen is forever. it was kind of one of those moments like, oh, that's good stuff, right? So I really appreciated you sharing that verse. But I think this whole message is just, again, it's very simplistic but very powerful. And a big takeaway for me is I want to be somebody within the pocket that brings the peace and the light.
Yeah.
But I know that I have a lot of tendencies that aren't peaceful.
I always feel peaceful when I'm around.
I was actually, when you were talking, right, like, I feel like that you are like radiating peace, and then it was kind of neat too because you brought his
peace radiator.
I'll gladly be a peace radiator.
But like you brought peace with the Star Wars, right? Like every you just don't even realize their interactions with people how you can have these moments where you're the peace radiator and you have a peace pocket. But I want to be mindful of my actions and everything that I do so that I can be a walking peace radiator.
Yeah. And it's fascinating how the discussion has flowed because it really fits where the whole series flows. Because today we talked about how do I experience this never-ending overflowing peace in my heart. Next week, we're going to talk about now how do I bring that to my home?
Ooh, we just got a preview, guys.
How am I the kind of person that can be a peace radiator, create a peace pocket out of my home, my family? Because so many families, the tension.
And
it ratchets up at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Right? And then the arguments and all that kind of stuff goes on. And then the last week in the series, how can I bring it to my world? How can we be the kind of people that actually brings peace to the world that we live in? But it starts here, and then it's creating the pockets around us, and then being able to bring more of it into the world that we live in.
Love it.
And our discussion has kind of flowed the way the whole series is going to flow to. So I hope everybody will be able to join us for the next two messages in the series, because now you know where we're going.
And if you don't use peace radiator or peace pocket next week, I'm going to be pretty upset.
Yeah.
I love both terms. I may have to use them now. And should I give you credit for them, Andy?
No. I want you to have it on your shirt. You can rip your shirt open and be a peace radiator.
Love it. May we all be that this holiday season. And speaking of holiday season, we've got 6 Christmas Eve services this year.
Yeah.
And we're doing something no other church in our area is, which means we're really smart, or we're not.
Or we're crazy.
Right. Could mean we're crazy. But we're offering services at times nobody else in our area is offering.
Really?
We're
I didn't
having
even look around. Oh.
None. People are doing normal church on Sunday, and then Christmas Eve services are all on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
We're going to offer 2 Christmas Eve services on Sunday, the 22nd, 2 on Christmas Eve, the 23rd, Monday, and then 2 on Christmas Eve. All of them are at 4 and 5:30.
Yep.
So a great chance when nobody else has got any Christmas Eve thing going to come check Connections out. Bring your friends and family with you.
Fill this church full.
We've got an amazing 55-minute service planned that I think will really bless everybody this Christmas Eve.
Yep.
Including an original song written by the Connections team.
Yep.
A Google Dolls song that's going to be setting up the message.
Nice.
A few other surprises we're throwing in for the whole family. Going to be a blast. I hope you'll be able to join us.
Yes.
And we also hope that the peace that is brought in Jesus will be something that you experience, not only today and not only throughout the holiday season, but throughout the entire rest of your life. God bless you. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday.